Kendi explains it like this. The only remedy to a racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination.
If you didn't catch that, he was saying like, oh yeah, I heard, not the first time I heard this, but like to fight racism, you have to fight racism with more racism.
CRT is not an honest dialogue. It is a tactic that was used by Hitler and the Ku Klux Klan on slavery very many years ago to dumb down my ancestors so we could not think for ourselves. CRT is racist. It is abusive. It discriminates against one's color. Let me educate you. An honest dialogue does not oppress. An honest dialogue does not implement hatred or injustice. It's to communicate without deceiving people. Today, we don't need your agreement. We want action and a backbone for what we asked for today, to ban CRT. We don't want your political advertisement to divide our children or belittle them. Think twice before you indoctrinate such racist theories. You cannot tell me what is or is not racist. Look at me. I had to come down here today to tell you to your face that we are coming together and we are strong. This will not be the last. Greet and meet respectfully.
Hey yo, what's up you guys? So I'm coming to you with another video and we are talking about CRT, critical race theory. Even though I have known about this, you know, and even though it is popping up a lot on my recommendations, I do want to talk about it, right? Because a lot of people, a lot of parents are talking about it, how this critical race theory is not only just racist, but it is indoctrinating grade school children, not even the like academia college stuff, but now it's working its way to the younger folks, right? And so a lot of people are having problems with it that, you know, yes, sure, when you look into James Lindsay talking about CRT, he talks about how it plays into cultural Marxism and woke ideology and everything. But for this video, I want to do it kind of a little bit light. We'll probably talk about on those topics, but we're going to do this via Freedomtoons as well as Free the People. So let's just kind of have a fun reaction talking about this and let's get into it. But first, of course, if you're new to my channel, what is up? My name is Mitch, Maverick Mitch, Hey Mitch, all the Mitches, and pretty much I like talking about what I talk about. So, current events, reviews, pop culture within the scope of entertainment, culture, and purpose. So, TV, movie reviews, social, political commentary. Be sure to check out all those videos as you're finishing this video.
Alright, kids. I'm here to teach you about critical race theory.
What? Critical race theory?
Oh, it's when you shut up because a person of color is speaking.
He's 1/5 Cherokee. Professor, what is critical theory?
Good question. White folks started slavery and they used it in their colonies. Some people want you to believe it was abolished in the 1860s. Really, it went underground with selective prosecution on bogus crimes. Blacks are locked up to this day disproportionately, and that's not okay.
What did he just say?
He said...
White folks started slavery.
No, him. The angry one.
Who?
The other puppet who was saying violent things.
There was no puppet saying violent things.
Yes, there was no puppet saying violent things.
Okay.
Anyway.
So we're protesting the big city to show our solidarity Would you stop interrupting?
You're hitting me.
And mostly not.
You were too.
What's wrong with you kids? My last class loved this show.
What preschool were they at?
Harvard.
Okay, so I like that. I was laughing. I didn't want to like go into commentary, but I like it because one, it's a puppet game, right? And it is this idea of like subverting something that is good, and then there's an underlying meaning of what is actually going on. And I love that because, you know, he's playing this off as this is something good, but obviously he's using the real hand or whatever, or the secondary puppet, the secondary narrative to actually start beating on people. And that's where like the action goes. Like he like this is all the nice stuff, right? This hand is all the nice things, and then this hand is actually doing the actual damage, you know? And so I thought that was really funny, and at least that's what I interpret the video as. And so, yeah, okay, so that was really cool. I've been watching Seamus on Timcast IRL, and you know, we'll just go into the next video via Free the People. Okay, pause real quick, and I just picked out this video because it's one of the recent ones. I guess they have a series on this, so which is cool. I just like it because, well, they'll probably go into like the history and a little bit about it, but we'll figure it out because this is the first time I'm seeing this for myself as well. But this is more about, this is not a parody. This is actually talking about critical race theory. So just a little preface on that. So hit it.
I have a dream. My four little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
When Martin Luther King Jr. fought for the civil rights of all Americans, he understood that unchosen attributes like race, ethnicity, and nationality should not divide us. The only race that matters is the human race, and we should all treat each other as individuals, as brothers and sisters united in our humanity. In today's universities, King's dream is considered not only passé, but outright harmful. Critical theory, or more specifically critical race theory, the intellectual framework steadily seeping from academia's ivory towers into the national conversation, demands that we use race as a lens through which to examine every aspect of our society. You've probably heard a lot of talk lately about anti-racism. Books like Ibram Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist are quickly toppling the bestseller lists. In it, Ibram Kendi insists that there's no such thing as being not racist. There is only anti-racism and racism. Indeed, simply claiming to not be a racist is a form of denial, the very heartbeat of racism. And this is the problem. The anti-racism label means that all criticism, anything short of unconditional agreement, can be dismissed as hate, bigotry, and ignorance. But in reality, this is just a rhetorical trick, one that disguises the ironic fact that anti-racism itself, at its heart, is deeply and profoundly racist. How can this be? How can someone be against racism and for racism at the same time? As I explained in a previous video, the critical race theorists, the one largely behind the anti-racist movement, have redefined the term racism beyond all recognition of most English speakers. Instead of referring to prejudice and discrimination based on race, the new definition is defined based on collective or group power dynamics. Kendi defines anti-racism as supporting any policy or idea that levels racial disparity and social economic outcome. And race...
So, pause real quick. So, I like going into these definitions, and especially when we talk about like critical race theory with other people just seem like on the surface, especially for those who don't really dive into it, they just like, oh, it's about like anti-racism training, it is about diversity and all this stuff, but they don't really actually get into it. And when it comes to like these levels in which, if you actually dive into critical race theory, it talks about, like he was saying right here, like for like POCs, black people, there's this idea that they can't be racist because they're not in an institutional power, you know. And so there's different definitions of racism. If you ask a normal person off the street, they would just say like hating another person based upon the race. But critical race theory talks about racism being you have to be in a position of power. So a black person attacking in that worldview, attacking an Asian person is not racist, because even if they have like racist thoughts, that's not racist because they're not in a quote unquote position of power, especially if that Asian is perceived to be in a higher economic status or any other status that's higher to that individual. So it gets a little complicated in a way, but it's just this idea, and you're convoluting the actual language and what he was mentioning of rhetorical trickness and everything. And so
he defines as a policy or idea that results in racial disparity for any minority group. If you're a member of a dominant group, it doesn't matter what your individual attitudes are. You're guilty of contributing to systemic racism by association. Furthermore, to Kendi, the idea of colorblindness is a racist concept, because in his mind, it is impossible to look beyond race, and any attempt to do so can only be a guise for maintaining the racist status quo. Moreover, discrimination itself is not necessarily racist, according to Kendi, as long as it is used to create racial equity. Kendi explains it like this: the only remedy to a racist discrimination is anti-racist discrimination. The only remedy to past discrimination is present discrimination. The only remedy to present discrimination is future discrimination.
If you didn't catch that, he was saying like, oh yeah, I heard, not the first time I heard this, but like, to fight racism, you have to fight racism with more racism.
By this logic, members of minority groups can never be racist because they lack the power to follow through on their prejudices. They have a false consciousness that has been socialized into them. They have been forced by dominant groups into internalizing their oppression, as the critical theorists say. This is the biggest problem with the anti-racist movement. It doesn't recognize individuals, only groups. It doesn't matter what you as an individual have done or said. The only thing that is important is which group you belong to. In other words, the color of your skin. That seems bad enough on its own, but it doesn't stop there. Baked into certain anti-racist narratives are certain assumptions about people based on their racial identity. For example, if you're black or Hispanic or a woman, critical theory assumes that you have no power. Critical race theory seeks to empower black and other minorities, except Asians, by forcing on them and leveraging a permanent victim status. The entire woke movement is about deferring responsibility from victims of systemic oppression, which is an inherently disabling and limiting way of thinking. Critical theory says...
I like that. Like that meaning, not only do I agree with that, it is a great way to make it palpable to other people when discussing this CRT to normal people. Like when we talk about, because obviously no one wants to be racist, right? But again, not diving into what this actually is this idea in which we are perpetuating this idea of victimhood, in which your race already by default puts you at a disadvantage or advantage, you know, versus whatever other factors in life, your economic, your location, your everything else that may play into your status in life, I guess. But this already, by saying that you're black or you're Asian, that you already poor or rich or vice versa, and you know, and that is a really, and it's a bad worldview as far as putting everything. You should, again, this idea is like, you shouldn't be defined on your race alone. You should be defined on your values. You should be defined on what you believe. You should be defined by yourself and your personality, not by merely one aspect of your life.
Is that white supremacy has already stripped away all agency, and that taking up a critical victimhood status is regaining that agency. I ask you this: when has giving away agency and personal responsibility ever led to mass advancement? The soft bigotry of low expectations is a phrase used to describe the danger of assuming minorities are somehow less intelligent or less capable. Anti-racism, as is practiced today, actually depends on these assumptions as a fundamental part of its worldview. A black person can never be racist because they lack power and are condemned to a life of victimhood. How insulting is that? A black person can only think for themselves if they are adopting this woke victimhood status. Otherwise, they are acting out of internalized racism, says the critical theorist.
And again, I do like this part because it does go into what the woke ideology talks about when we talk about, like, when they talk about against Brandon Tatum and like Candace Owens. It's like, if you're not part of the in group, then you must be part of the out group, and therefore you must be complicit if you are not yourself a white supremacist, right? And so it's this, not only just tribalism, it's this idea in which you can't break away from this thought process, and it just keeps you in this perpetual loop. And so, yeah.
Anti-racists are fine with policies that discriminate against Asian Americans trying to get into the best universities, despite the fact that they are a minority immigrant population with little representation in the government. Because they are deemed to have power, based on what metric, it's not really clear, they are deemed acceptable targets of overtly racist policies. The real problem here is collectivism. Once you choose to identify people based on the group membership rather than their individual characteristics, it is inevitable that racism, as well as sexism, nationalism, and every other form of nasty prejudice will follow. The only way out of this trap is to view people as individuals, with their own distinct virtues, vices, and personalities.
Yep.
Dr. King had it right. We must judge each other based on the content of our character. Any other system leads to this kind of hateful tribalism that we're seeing today. Everyone pick a team, put on a uniform, and let the games begin. Only in this game, there are no winners. And the trophy is a loss of a civilized society.
Great. Excellent point there. You know, when it, like, this is self-destructive in itself, right? And it's like, we are working backwards. Like, we are living in, like, this is where a dystopia begins, right? And so instead of putting individual merit on yourself and not defining it even as me, as whatever, Filipino Catholic, military, whatever individual aspects, and you know, you should be defined by not just one of those things, right? You should be defined as a whole, as an individual, and not be like, okay, so I'm Filipino, so you're part of the Filipino groups, and you all have to think as one. And so, yeah, I really like this. I'll probably do some more videos. I should do actually reaction videos to their series, and so we'll probably think about doing that. But yeah, I really enjoyed this video, and again, this was a nice introduction as someone who was just jumping into it, you know, and I love that they were just off the bat talking about like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so, yeah, thanks for watching. What do you guys think about all of this, you know? Are you already seeing some critical race theory, either talking about your friends, or if you're a parent, is it already talking with your kids and everything? And so let me know, comment below, continue the discussion, and then see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. You can follow me on my Instagram at HeyMitch. You can follow me at my joint Instagram at It's Mandatory Fun, where I do other videos for my friend Jen. And of course, please share, like, and subscribe, and see you in the next video. Thanks again for watching. Peace, peace, peace. Be with you.